Make him sit in the naughty corner. Bad boss. Sumper. Should I get rid of that word I just said? Sumper.
Sumper.
Just going to run through some simple principles when using a chain breaker. So this is the basic concept for using a standard chain breaker on a standard link chain. You'll notice on chain breakers you've got these two little slots, or sometimes just the one. They're simply there to align the chain in the right position so the pin can push against it. The common problem we find is that these snap. Now the reason that happens is because the chain isn't supported. These aren't structural, they're simply to keep it in place. So when you put in the chain on the chain breaker, wind in the little screw in the back, if it has one, and that'll support the chain and it won't break your chain breaker. These Odyssey ones are pretty straightforward. They'll work with most chains. That's the most important fact with that one. So when you're breaking the chain, pop your chain on there. I find it's really easy sometimes to hold the chain so you've got two right angles either way. So pulling the chain straight down. That stops the chain from twisting like this. If you hold it like that, you can affect how the chain sits on the chain breaker. So if you hold it nice and straight like that, it'll keep everything in line. All right, when it comes to pushing the pin out with your backing screw on there tightly, as you can see, there's no load on those two plates. It's all on the back of the chain breaker. You don't want to push it all the way. You generally want to keep it in the outside plate. It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you just go slowly, just push it through there until you can feel it. So we'll back these off. As you can see, there's just a little bit of pin left in the plate. So the reason you do that is when you're rejoining it, you can click it back in and it'll hold itself together quite well. When it comes to rejoining it, basically everything in reverse. So you want to keep it nice and straight again, try and keep your pin lined up. If it looks like it's shooting off to the side, just check to make sure everything is in line properly. Pop it in place there. As you can see, the pin is making contact with the chain pin there. We're winding it back in. You can feel it go through the internal plates to the same point the other pins are. Now, if you're ever wondering what these extra two plates are, it's when you get a situation like this. Quite often when you are rejoining the chain, you've got a stiff link. So these little plates simply designed to help the pin push the plates apart. So you're essentially pushing the pin through the middle. Outer plate will push out from the chain and it'll free up the link, as you can see. Just going to run you through some key points on how to use a half link chain breaker on a half link chain and why it differs from other types of chains and chain breakers. Something similar to a shadow conspiracy interlock chain. The key difference between these guys and other half link chains is that the plates actually move freely. When that comes to rejoining the chain, it can be pretty tricky when you're pushing the pin to get these plates to align, and what can happen commonly is that the pin will tear a hole because it's not quite lined up correctly. When we break the chain, these guys don't have any adjustment in the chain breaker itself, but you can see the plates do float freely. Shouldn't be any load on the chain breaker itself. Similar principles to a normal link chain. I like to hold it straight down like that if you can. Keeps everything nice and straight. You have more control over how straight it can sit, whereas if it's like this, it can twist a lot easier. So we hold it nice and straight, making sure that the driving pin on the chain breaker is contacting the pin in the chain nice and cleanly, nice and straight. There's no deflection, simply wind through. You can feel the pins in a shadow chain pop as they go past each plate. So sometimes if you listen, you'll be able to hear it go through one. So that's through the outer plate. You don't usually hear it on the inner plates. You can sometimes hear it as it passes through the second on the edge. That one, and then you back it off, and that's your chain broken to where you need it. So when it comes to rejoining the chain, you still need to have a little bit of the pin shining through. And you'll notice on shadow type chain breakers, you have this little alignment pin, which helps everything line up. So first thing you want to do is pop your chain on and hold it where you need it to be like that. Grab your little alignment pin and slide everything through like that. Just slide it through. That'll keep everything, your outer and your inner plates and all your internal roll and everything in the right position. And then you, once again, use your driving pin, make sure everything's nice and straight. You can see it all moving nice and clean through. If you look really closely on a shadow pin, there is actually tiny little grooves. These little grooves line up to the outer plates. When you hear that popping sound, that's actually the pin aligning itself. So that's gone through. You shouldn't find there's any tight spots in a shadow chain because the pins actually float freely. So if you ever grab a shadow chain on its own and grab a pin, you should be able to rotate it in the chain.